When I first arrived at AKT, a young man walked through the door of me who'd become HIV positive, 17, and it was his first sexual experience. And basically, he'd been thrown out by his parents, needed a bed for the night, and had been forced into unprotected sex to get a bed for the night.
And with the advent of same-sex marriage on March the 29th this year, all the legal building blocks of equality between gay people and straight people are now essentially in place.
We've got most of the policies right these days.
I think I always knew my family wouldn't be okay with it.
I feel like you have to change who you are as a human being.
I'd been rejected by my parents when I was homeless.
I think with improvements in society and
more
legs. Acceptance of us as individuals.
Better compared to when I was
people
in school, when it was a very, very hostile environment in the 1980s.
That's a good thing.
They feel more confident because the media gives them the impression it's a safe place to come out.
And then somebody in the pub told him.
Preferences. So I think it's easier for people to come out now, but I wouldn't say it's easy still.
He came back one night in a horrible, horrible rage. Came into the house and just started throwing things around, started shouting, asked my mum if she knew. She didn't stick up for me, she didn't defend me, which I think hurt most of all because I always thought my mum would. Mums are meant to be there for you. And he said, get out, you can't stay here, I'm not having somebody like that in my house, get out. And that was it. No help, no let's talk about it, nothing. And so I had just enough time to run and grab some things from upstairs and go.
So where did you go?
I had nowhere to go. I think
the question around why is there a need for a specialist charity around homelessness is a question I get all the time, and it's because people can't grasp in 2014 why there's a need. Basically, what I hear people tell us is that they go to mainstream services and there's a lack of understanding. It's not about having specialist housing because of LGBT. It's about things like, you know, if you put me there as a gay man, there's a high level of homophobic abuse in my neighbourhood. I'm in danger if you put me there.
And this is where charities like the Albert Kennedy Trust really come into play to support those young people, provide them with emotional support and with food and shelter.
We had a 30% increase in the last 18 months in young people coming through the door. So we know that while policy, legislation's moved on, social attitudes haven't caught up.
For instance, in sport, the number of sports people on a global basis, you can count are openly gay, you wouldn't get passed beyond the fingers on one hand. If there aren't enough role models in society, then it's still probably quite hard for people to feel comfortable about coming out themselves if they can't see that other people in more powerful positions than themselves still don't feel able to come out. So I still think we've got some way to go on that. The law is now okay, but attitudes are still got quite a long way to go.
Essentially what these kids do is something incredibly brave in order to not carry on the rest of their lives living a lie.
Our services team give advice and guidance to young people, so we might have a young person that's ringing up because they're thinking about coming out to their parents or whoever they're living with. They don't think that it's going to go particularly well, they think it might actually be, you know, the final straw and they'll have to leave their home, and it could be that we just advise them how to do that safely.
Yeah, AKT makes itself focused on the people it's helping in a way that is quite unique, and it seems to be a kind of organisation that is always listening.
A fairly new face for AKT is our housing offer. So we're based in 3 cities. So in London we have an emergency accommodation service, which is a 6-bed house in a secure location where we can house young people who are you know, homeless or at risk of homelessness, or if they're fleeing violence, we can house them for ideally up to 21 days, but we can be quite flexible with a young person.
The fund is a charity challenge that all first year Faststreamers have been set. We've been split into groups of around about 20 people, and we've been tasked with choosing a charity, which was pretty open-ended. We could have gone with any cause that we felt most drawn to as a group. And then we've been tasked with fundraising as much money and banking as much time as possible for that charity.
The group I'm in is called the Purple Fund, and we have chosen to raise money for a charity called AKT, or the Albert Kennedy Trust.
Realised we can raise a lot of awareness for this charity as opposed to we can raise a lot of money. We thought we can do a lot of good for them in different ways.
I think as a group we hadn't thought about the impact of sexuality on your social situation and on the environment that you might live in. And when we started to delve a little bit deeper into that, we realised just how much of an issue it is and how much impact we could potentially make to quite a number of people who live in challenging situations.
I'm in the small events team, and we organise small events, or help organise small events. The events that we have organised are a cycle ride, which is happening on the 26th of April, starting in Richmond Park, a couple of bake sales, pub quiz in Bristol. Hugely beneficial to work with organisations like the Civil Service. First of all, we get access to some great skills and some incredible enthusiasm, which enables us to do some projects that we wouldn't have time to do ourselves.
We're doing lots of big events to raise money for Albert Kennedy Trust, and one of them, we're here tonight to do a sleep out. Sleep out is intended to recreate what it's like to speak rough on the streets, but it's a personal challenge for people taking part, and they've all worked really hard to get their friends, their families, their co-workers to sponsor them, and now we're here tonight, freezing cold, doing a bucket shake as well to get some even more money. We're doing really well.
Thank you so much.
Big smile.
Although we're not trying to recreate the idea of sleeping rough, it does give you a little bit of perspective that we're here with our warm coats and our layers, and, you know, it's only for one night, and to put that, it's not fun for us, what it would be like to be every night, kind of puts things into perspective.
Thank you, that's
People seem to be really open to the concept, you know, giving lots of money. We just got a tenner from someone. There's a few notes coming in, the buckets are getting heavier, and I can't believe we've raised so much so far, to be honest. Another few hours maybe, and I think we've raised a really good amount.
We've been here for about 2 hours now. We've raised so much more money than we thought we would. We've just been out under the portico shaking buckets, all getting together as a team, and it's been super successful, so much more than we thought it would be. So, thumbs up, you're on camera. Oh my gosh, the victory jig.
It's getting a bit cold now. I think it's about 11:30ish, give or take. I think we're waiting on the drunk people to come out the pubs, and hopefully they'll be a bit more generous. But it's getting a bit cold, and we're hanging on in there, and we're here for a greater purpose.
I mean, when I heard from the Faststreamers here in UKTI that you had picked this cause to support, I was absolutely delighted. I don't think Faststreamers would have got together as a group and supported a cause like this, say 20 years ago when I was a Faststreamer. So I think that's absolutely tremendous that you've chosen something that is potentially controversial. It's a really good cause, and it's also, I think, I almost feel emotional about this, to think that our young talent coming into the civil service is leading by example and leading the rest of us. I just think that's fantastic.
We want the brightest and the best to work in public service in our country, and you know, the brightest and the best is completely blind when it comes to colour, disability, sexual orientation, or any other facets of human characteristic.
It means we are we're getting the message out to the people who need to understand why there's a need for us. I mean, working with the Faststreamers is extremely important, because you're the voice of tomorrow. You're the people who will advise ministers and government generally. We need you to understand the issues and perspective.
Show some love, you ain't so tough.